Welcome intermediate to algebra students. We are going to work on the quarter 3 review on independent practice number 1. Now remember, I will give you another one of these, and the whole idea is to master these concepts before we have our quarter test. Alright, so looking at the first one, it says completely factor. So on these ones we want to try to take out a GCF. So we're looking for the largest number that goes into 9, 24, and 18. 9 goes into 18, but 9 does not go into 24. So the GCF, the greatest common factor of all these, is going to be 3. So when I take a 3 out, I'm now looking at all the variables, and I realize there's an x, y, z, x's, y's, and z's in each of them. So I can take out 3 here, 1 here, and since that's the smallest amount I can take from that one, or largest amount I can take from that one, I can take 1x. A y squared, and a y cubed, I can take out 1y, and then I can take out 1z as well. So I'm going to have parentheses, and I have to figure out what I would multiply 3xyz by to get 9x cubed yz. So that would definitely be a 3 for the coefficient, and then x, I need to get to x cubed, so I'm going to multiply by x squared. Y I already have, and z I already have, so it's just 3x squared. Plus sign because there's a plus sign right here, and then I'm going to put in an 8. 3 times 8 is 24. X is good. I'm missing a y, so I got to put a y there, and then I'm missing 2 z's, so this would be z squared. And then the minus carries through. 3 times 6 here will give me this 18. X to x squared, I'm missing an x. Y to y cubed, I'm missing a y squared, and then I'm missing a z. And then I cap it off, and that's my final answer. Moving on to number 2. You don't want to try to let your brain just continue to try to factor fast. You want to look and see if there's a greatest common factor. So there is. I'm going to take a 2 out. By doing so, I'm actually making the trinomial on the inside have smaller numbers, which make it easier to factor anyways. So now that I have this, I want to remember it says completely factor for the directions. So after I take a 2 out, I still have to look right here to see if I can factor this. Now a common mistake is to forget the 2. Keep the 2 going along for the ride, and this is going to factor into 2 binomials here. Alright, so looking here, I always want to look right there. I'm going to highlight where I want you to look. I want you to look right there. That is the place that tells you what the signs are going to be. So that tells us there's going to be a plus and there's going to be a minus. I know from here, this coefficient of 1, that it's going to be an x and an x. And then the factors of 15 to try to get me to 2 here are 5 and 3. And I'm actually going to put a 5 right here and a positive 3 right there. Now when I try to factor outside, I get, FOIL with the outside terms, I get a negative 5x, and on the inside I get a positive 3x for a grand total of negative 2x's. That's exactly what I have right here. So this is my final answer. Please note that the 2 must be part of that final answer. Moving on to number 3. There is no GCF. I can see that right away. So there is no GCF, but I am going to start factoring this by again looking right here at that sign, so which means there's going to be a plus and a minus. Easiest thing to probably do is see that there's an x squared, so that would be an x and an x. And then we're not looking here, we're looking at the factors of 10, and we know we have to have a y on each of those. So we could try 1 and 10, 10 and 1, 2 and 5, 5 and 2. But just kind of looking ahead, I know I want to have a negative 3xy. And I can see that my factors of 10 that are 5 and 2 could get me there. The bigger factor is 5, and I want to end up with a negative. So that's why I'm going to put the 5 here, and I'm going to put a y next to it. And then I'm going to put the 2y here. And then again, when we check the outside, we get negative 5xy, inside positive 2xy, which goes together to negative 3xy. So that's factoring a trinomial. Alright, number 4 is the one that typically we tend to do a pretty good job on. First of all, you do want to try to check for a GCF. 9 and 49 do not have one, so it's going to be 3x plus 7 in parentheses here. And then the other parenthesis is going to be 3x minus 7. And remember, the big thing here is if we were to check this through FOIL, the outside and the inside terms are opposites. They completely cancel. So that's why we have no middle term. All right, here we are. Number 5. All right, time to S-step that signage, yo. So S-step. Same, different, always positive. Now this is something you just got to memorize the structure for. So we're going to start with a binomial, and then we have a trinomial. The sign is negative, so we're going to S-step. We're going to same, different, always positive the signs. All right? And then now we're looking at the first term. The first term here is x cubed. So you think to yourself, 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. Sorry, 1. 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. 3 times 3 times 3 equals 27. So what times what times what actually gives me x cubed? Well, that's going to be x times x times x. So the cube root of x cubed is x. So notice here, when I'm trying to find cube roots, just taking one of those each time, those are the cube roots. So the cube root of 8 is 2. The cube root of 27 is 3. The cube root of x cubed is x. So that's what I want to make sure you understand right now. So that means that goes here, okay? And I'm going to notice here, and I'm going to take my highlighter and show you what goes with what. So this one goes here and here. And then taking another color, let's go yellow. This one goes here and goes right there. So grab the pen here. I want to show you that the x cubed, that's how you get the x. You take the cube root. Now you square it to go into this slot. So that's x squared. Cube root of 8, well, that's like we showed over here, 2. So the 2 goes in the back slot here. But then, just like we squared the x, square the 2, and this is actually 2 squared, which is 4. And then in here, I'm running out of room here. I didn't make it real big, but this is 2x. So the final answer to this one is x minus 2 times the quantity x squared plus 2x plus 4. Okay, moving on to the next one. Yesterday in class, a lot of us were like, oh, our instincts here are to add 5 to both sides. But you don't want to do that. When I'm trying to solve, I really like that this right side is 0. So this is actually solving using factoring. So we're going to try to factor. So this is going to become 2x. This is going to become x. And then looking through here, I want my factors of 5, which are only 5 and 1. So I'm going to try putting a 5 and a 1 here. And my signs are plus and minus. So I'm just throwing some numbers in to see if it works. Well, as I do this here, I'm going to see the outside and the inside actually get me to positive 5x, negative 2x. That's a positive 3x, and I really want to have a negative 3x here. So all I have to do is switch the sign. So that becomes a minus and that becomes a plus. And now what do we have? We have two things multiplied together to give me 0. So the logic holds that one of those must be 0. So we get 2x minus 5 equals 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. So then what are we going to have here? We're going to add 5 to both sides. Add 5 to both sides. 2x equals 5. Divide by 2, you're going to eventually get here. X equals 5 halves for one of those answers. And then over here, the other answer would be x equals negative 1. All right, on this one, find the domain. I immediately, when I'm finding domain, don't worry about the numerator, but I do want to try to factor the denominator. So the denominator becomes x plus 6, x minus 6, because we have ourselves a difference of perfect squares. And then the domain means values we cannot have in the denominator. So when we would solve this, we would say negative 6 or 6 are the two answers, but we say we cannot have those answers. So the two answers we're not allowed to have are negative 6 and 6. If you're confused by this, just try plugging in negative 6 way up here. Negative 6 squared is actually negative 6 times negative 6. That's 36. 36 minus 36 is 0. Can't have a denominator of 0. All right, moving on to number 8. Our instincts, hopefully, are to take a GCF out of the top. And we can see that a Z goes in there. All right, so we say, what up, Z? And then a Z goes outside, and we have 3x minus 2 on the inside. And then the denominator here is going to be this whole guy here squared. Now, don't tell anyone you're doing this, but you're looking ahead at the top, and you're like, you know what? This has a 3x squared here, and this is 3x minus 2. There's a good chance that when I factor this, this one's going to end up being 3x minus 2. Now, if it is, we know our signs have to be different. That means this is going to have to be a plus, and we know there's factors of 10 here. So if that's a 2, this guy here has got to be a 5. And if we still want to check it to make sure we're right, but when you do outside and you do inside, you'll see that this is the correct factorization. So we're going to cancel these two. Nothing else cancels. Final answer is going to be Z over x plus 5. All right, moving along. Looking at this one right here, we have 4 places we could factor. So looking at the top, we can take a 4 out of 8 and 12. So it's going to be 4 onto x. Sorry, messed up there. That's going to be 4 onto 2x plus 3. Denominator here is going to be, we can take a 3 out, and that's going to be onto 2x plus 3. Convenient. And then we're going to multiply by, we can take a 3 out, times x minus 2. And then the denominator here, we want to factor that trinomial. So we're going to have a 2x, and then an x. And we got to have factors of 6. Now you're thinking this one might match up with that one, just thinking ahead. So let's try the minus 2, see if that works. If that was a negative 2, this one would have to be positive 3. And that actually is the correct factorization when you do the outside-inside. So we do have the minus x minus 2's canceling, the 2x plus 3's canceling. Actually, be careful here and watch your writing, but you have the 3's canceling. And remember, when I cancel these, there's 1's in their places everywhere. So the whole numerator right now is just 4. That's everything on top. And then the denominator actually got all the way down to 2x plus 3. Do you want to cancel the 4 and the 2? No, you say, because this one's a monomial and this one is with that binomial. So you do not want to cancel those two. Okay, moving along here. We are going to get number 10 in, and then we're going to be the end of this video, and we'll make another one for the rest of the worksheets. So number 10, you want to factor. We are dividing. Dividing is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're going to leave 15x, it's a monomial, but we are going to turn x squared minus 25 into x plus 5, and then into x minus 5. And then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of that. What that means is we're going to flip this fraction around. So that means we're going to have x plus 5 over 25 x to the third power. I think that's a third. Hold on, I just circled over what it was. Let me back up here. Sorry about this. Yep, it is a third. So I'm going to go back to where I was. Apologize. So that is x cubed. So this is going to be here x plus 5 over 25 x cubed. All right, so now what we can do is we can take the x plus 5s and we can cancel those since this is multiplication. And then looking at the next of it, 15 and 25 don't completely cancel, but a 5 goes in there. So that can be a 3 and that can be a 5. And then these x's are bottom heavy by 2. So this is just going to be a 1 up there, but this is going to cancel to x squared. So looking at the top very carefully, we do have just a 3 left over on top. And on the bottom here, we got quite a bit, but when I clean that up, I'm going to have 5x squared times x minus 5. And then there's my final answer. Now be very careful. I need you to be warning as we go on to this next one, and I'm going to make another video for this. Totally different ball game when we have a minus in between these two. Look back at what we just did. There was multiplication, there was division. This stuff makes it a lot simpler. You can just start factoring and canceling, and this makes it harder when you have a plus or a minus. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed your first YouTube video.